Our speakers today will be focused. I got lost connection here. Excuse me. I'm really excited to introduce our session today, being broadcast live all over the world. Our speakers will be focusing their discussion on the importance of a highly connected customer journey to not only deliver significant impact, but also to enhance the end customer's experiences. So they'll illustrate this through the lens of life sciences use cases, but this can really be applied to really any industry like auto, consumer products, retail, financial services. So with that, allow me to introduce our speakers today. We have Josh Reed as a VP Client Partner Market Access at Precision Extract. Next, we have Sergey Pachko, our VP of Data and AI within Capgemini's group portfolio. Finally, we have Shivani Patel, our Connected Customer Journey Platform Leader in Insights and Data at Capgemini. So just some housekeeping, the session will be recorded, so we will share this with your colleagues who may have missed it. Feel free to share this. And please ask questions in the chat feature within the platform. So if no other questions, we'll hand it over to Sergey to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Hello, everyone. Let's make sure that the slides are visible. And I would like to start projecting them. Thank you. And let's move on to the next slides. As we already had the introductions. Yes, let's go back one slide. Don't rush into reading the slides. We will walk you through this in just a second. And I would like to start by sharing my personal story that I recently had with an electric car when I was traveling on vacation. And all of a sudden, for a couple of nights, the security alarm would go off during the night. And you can imagine, of course, what kind of disturbance it would create for the family, for the neighbors, when during the summertime you have a very loud noise in the forest from this security alarm of the car. I couldn't solve the issue. I couldn't understand what was happening, so I called customer support. And what a surprise was it for me when, right from the very beginning of the conversation, they started to address me by a name. So they say, "Hey, hello, Sergey, what has happened?" So they already knew, of course, my phone number that was registered, and that was a little bit of a personalization for me. And then very quickly, they were able to remotely diagnose the issue. So they said, "Oh, yeah, alarm. Let me check. Oh, yes, you had it a couple of times in the last 2 nights. Tell us more a little bit about that, because we see that these specific sensors, they were causing the alarm. They were registering the root cause for this alarm." And then basically they gave me an advice to check for plastic bottles that were probably would be in the car, because during the nighttime, the temperature changes, and then this plastic bottle will start cracking, and sensors would register those small sounds as something happening in the car, and then the alarm would go off. So they knew a lot about me through the connectivity, through the data that was provided from the car, from the phone that I was calling from. And they actually suggested to check for that, but already scheduled the appointment for the service review just in case when I am back to the Netherlands. So they also knew that I was not in the Netherlands when all that was happening. And to me, it was such a tremendous experience because I didn't have to explain them a lot. They actually solved the issue, and they already said, "Okay, when you will be back, tell us when, and we already have the appointment for you. And if you don't need it, you just cancel this through your mobile app." I was able to talk over the phone, and then I can cancel through the mobile app, and it all works together. So this is a tremendous experience that I personally had. And of course, you can imagine that my loyalty to this brand of this electric car manufacturer is now quite high. At the same time, I was processing, when all was happening, I was processing that from the data and AI perspective, because I work in Capgemini in this data and AI team, where we define our service offerings. And one of them we will be talking about today with Shivani and Josh on Customer Journey Platform. How can we create these similar experiences in other industries? Because there are lots of value that can be created. And now if we go through this slide, you can see that the value is on the top, where you see the customer experience So what is the value for me as a client that when I bought this car or any other product, this ultimate customer experience is continuously delivered every day? When I made this decision, how can I continue as a brand to ensure that my customers are having this customer experience and the value that is so important for the client? And on the other hand, for brands, the business impact that the brand can get out of servicing their customers, and this business impact could be the market share or profits or reputation of the brand, while doing all that is very helpful and useful for the end user, for the customer. So these are the value drivers of customer journey management. But there are also barriers that you can see at the bottom of this slide. And I guess all of those barriers that we decided to highlight today are about data. And that is because for the last 15 years, I guess, that's my guess, marketing and customer journey management is not a guesswork anymore. It's all factual journey based on actual and factual data that is collected from your clients throughout this journey. So those barriers are, as data is the key, number one would be the data latency. And if I think about the example that I gave you about my car experience and this alarm experience, that's great that they already had all this data about those sensors in near real time, and they could have a look and immediately diagnose that. Imagine if they would have this data maybe uploaded only once a week. They wouldn't be able to solve my problems. So data latency is very important. The other one is reporting transparency. What kind of context do they have about my customer journey? Do they know that I'm traveling? Yes or no? Do they have my GPS location right now? Yes or no? So this transparency of the reporting is very important, again, to contextualize the situation and solve for me. And then finally, the last one that we would like to highlight today is the fragmentation of data and the silos. Because I could go and file my request through the mobile application, or I can go and call by phone, or I can go and then just show up in the service center. If the company, this electric car company, would be keeping this data in multiple different IT systems and register those interactions without combining this data, then again, they wouldn't be able to provide the experience that I got. So those are the barriers. And guess what? Those barriers are actually causing what Google coined as the messy middle, and that's the middle of our slide. So that's the unpredictable movement of customer interactions, when I can go from one channel to another channel, and I can go from different decisions when I'm still considering the purchase, and I need to maybe compare this with other brands, and then I already bought the product. So it's a messy journey that I might have as a client. And for any brand, it is really crucial to solve for this messy middle using data. And that is, of course, so that the brand would be able to guide, influence, and orchestrate my journey, make it personalized, optimized for all of those interactions. So brands have less and less opportunities to make it right, because if they did it wrong, then I could switch away to another brand, right? So that is very crucial. And because of that, today we will be talking about customer journey management and how to improve this, how to improve those chances for brands to deliver the value to those customers and solve for the barriers that you can see in the bottom of this slide. In short, we will talk about the importance of data platforms, the importance of data exchange and collecting the first-party data. We will talk about AI and analytics to actually understand and contextualize this data and what generative AI brings on, for example, to process the text data or to process the voice data or to link the data points from different data sets with generative AI to actually help streamline this customer journey management. And some of you would be surprised why we are talking a lot about life sciences today, but there is a specific reason for that. Shivani and Josh are working in this industry for quite some time using customer journey platform that Shivani's team has developed. And they specifically will talk about specialty pharma. And that is where some decisions are really life or death decision for the patient, because the end customer is the patient. And then if you need some urgent treatment, if some decisions are not timely made, some approvals are not timely made by insurance company or by a healthcare provider, that really can impact the health of the patient. So making this patient right is really crucial. And we saw that if we were able to solve this for our life sciences customers, then definitely we will be able to do it for any other industries. And Shivani will share how she's doing this for other industries like automotive and so on. So when you will be listening to the conversation today between Shivani and Josh, again, you'll hear a lot about life sciences, but they will make it relevant for you, for your industry. You will see how to learn from these life sciences examples and bring this back to your industry. And with that, I will hand over to Shivani to explain to us a little bit more on the topic of specialty pharma and how customer journey management is helping to save lives there. Shivani, over to you.
Thank you, Sergey. Next slide, please. So I think, Sergey, thank you so much for setting the context around broader customer journey management. I think at Capgemini, especially within my group, we strive to adopt a data-driven approach to really amplify that customer experience, leveraging all the data sets that we have. Now, within life sciences, it's a patient journey. It's very similar to a customer journey, but it's really focused in on understanding how we can leverage the data sets that live within our ecosystem as well as our channel partners to really enhance the patient experience. And really the goal here is to take all the different data sets that exist, connect them in real time so that you're able to deliver the right message to the right stakeholder at the right time in that broader patient journey narrative, so that you're able to really enrich that customer patient experience, but also have some favorable business impact. It's something that my team strives to do on a daily basis. And the reason that we wanted to talk about that today is we certainly can do it in our own world, but we always strive to innovate. What can we do to enrich and drive additional value, not only for our customers, but ultimately the patient? And this is where the thought of the framework of the connected health partners has really brought a tremendous value internally to our own organizations. And Josh and I will talk about that in a little bit. But the world about data connectivity, data exchange, those are all areas of opportunity, not only for life sciences, but across the different industries. Leveraging real-time data to identify opportunities to navigate your consumer, your patient to a desired outcome is something that we strive to do, leveraging a very focused, micro-targeted, data-driven approach, not entirely dissimilar to the example that Sergey mentioned earlier with his experience with the car. Right, having a very personalized outreach so that you're able to really ensure that the patient or the consumer feels heard. You understand what's happening in the broader context of their experience. That's something that we do at Capgemini really well, but we're making it better. And the way that we're making it better is really by creating relationships with other partners that live within our ecosystem, that live within market landscapes, so that together with the data connectivity that already exists, we can enrich the data set to bring more value to our customers as well as to our manufacturers. And that's really, I think, an area where Josh and I are really, really excited to present our perspective on how we've partnered together in the past, how we continue to partner together to bring additional value, not only to life sciences and beyond. Next slide, please. So today we'll be talking more around customer 360, but very, very specifically around life sciences. That's an area, as Sergey mentioned, Josh and I have a tremendous amount of experience in. And within that, it's specialty pharma. So within specialty pharmaceutical products, it's paramount to understand the influencers and the drivers of patient behavior. How can we influence that patient so they're able to get a better healthcare outcome? And we do that through longitudinal patient journey tracking. So we identify when a patient is eligible for therapy, how they are enrolling in that program, all the different steps they have to go through in order to get approved for a medication, and ultimately they are brought upon therapy, they've adopted a therapy. That's the ideal journey, but a lot can go wrong there. So how can we drive value, leveraging data exchanges, leveraging some of the pipelines that we already have established with our preferred partners to really amplify that experience? And today we're going to talk about that amplification through the lens of payer and provider analytics. Within the world of specialty pharma, next slide, please, payers and providers have a significant influence on how that journey is created, how that patient starts, and then how that patient ends up on therapy. Next slide, please. If we think about the specialty pharmacy patient journey, it's very, very similar to a consumer journey in the sense that you've identified the consumer, you want to get them adopted on your therapy, good, product, service, and ultimately you want them to stay adherent on that service, good, therapy, or product. So if we peel apart the layer of just consumer and think about a patient, for specialty pharmacy medications, these are typically indicated for patients that have very acute conditions that oftentimes getting on therapy very quickly is really going to drive that better patient experience that's going to provide a better healthcare outcome, not only just for the patient, but really every single stakeholder along that journey is truly also going to have a better experience. So if we think about it through the lens of identification, initiation, and adoption within the world of specialty pharma, the journey is a little bit different than it would be in an automotive setting or in a retail setting. Within the world of life sciences, it's really all around how can we ensure that that patient gets on therapy faster? And some of the larger challenges that patients tend to face are around payer hurdles. So a typical journey for a specialty pharmacy patient, maybe they go to an HCP or a healthcare provider. They've identified an acute condition that they have a specialty pharmacy product that could solve for to make that patient's life experience better, to manage their condition. But in order to get that product, they have to go through a fairly exhaustive process. And everything has to go exactly right in that process unless for that medication to be dispensed. So a typical journey could be you start at your HCP, they refer you, you go to a specialty pharmacy, which is an institution that dispenses this product. They enroll you in that program. They take down your information, all your personal information, your healthcare information. Then they start something that's known as a benefits investigation, because typically specialty pharmacy products tend to be very expensive. So there's additional rigor you have to go through from a market access perspective. And that's really what we call the benefits investigation. Then they have to do something called a prior authorization, which means they have to reach out to their payer or provider and get information so that that medication is approved. Because again, these are very high cost medications that oftentimes have very complex modes of administration, infusions, injectables. So there's a lot of care and a very high touch point type of journey. And finally, there's an approval. And once that approval comes through from the HCP, from the patient themselves, as well as the payer, ultimately you'll get a dispense. And within the world of specialty pharma, there's so many different therapeutic classes, and the patient experience is greatly varied across all of these therapeutic classes. Sometimes we see a patient initiate on therapy in less than a week, and oftentimes on more challenging therapies, it could be 2 or 3 months from now. And the conversion rate, which means how successful are you from the referral to the dispense, that also varies. Sometimes we see conversion rates less than 30%, and sometimes we see conversion rates higher than 50%. So there's just a lot of variability in the terms of how likely a patient is in order to get on therapy. And how can we influence that? And that's really where Josh and I are going to talk about, well, some of the challenges that we know that Sergey mentioned around data latency, data reporting, as well as fragmented and siloed data assets. So what can we do as an organization really within the life sciences industry to address those challenges? Because in the world of specialty pharma, having the ability to initiate on therapy faster, to remain on therapy longer, those are the goals that we're all trying to achieve, leveraging a data-driven approach. And this is where Capgemini and Precision Extract have really created a really exciting framework that allows us to amplify this value, address the core challenges of getting patients on therapy faster, getting them on therapy longer, and making sure that they experience better health outcomes by really addressing the core challenges of how can we make the data exchange, how can we leverage the data exchange to make the data reporting faster, cleaner, more complete? How can we provide better data together faster back to our manufacturers as well as their external stakeholders to make sure that the data enables a better healthcare experience? And ultimately, what can we all do collectively to make sure that patients get on therapy and stay on therapy? And if you go to the next slide, this is where Josh and I think we're very, very excited to talk about what we've done to address the core challenges of transparency, latency, as it pertains to specialty pharmacy patients. And some of the main hurdles that we hear constantly, and Josh, please chime in, are around access, are around cost, because these therapies tend to be so expensive with so many barriers from a payer perspective. What can we do together in order to alleviate some of those? Josh, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I think, generally speaking, right, the patient journey is an example of a consumer journey. And like any one of those journeys, the experience is everything, right? So you touched on, pull through, right? So the conversion rate, what's the frequency by which patients actually, get access to the therapy? And what we've seen, or at least my observation, has been that, you've got reasons why people don't get that access, right? They get a little frustrated with the process along the way. All of these barriers, with cost and prior authorization, these types of things, they create friction, and that slowness, right? Especially when it comes to healthcare, is a big deal. And they tend to then not answer the phone when, a pharmacy is following up, or a case manager with patient services is trying to follow up, right? Those are really common reasons why, the experience is sort of indicative of why the conversion rate suffers. So what can you do about that? I think, one of the things that the conclusions that I've had sort of over the years is that in healthcare specifically, really like among physicians, they argue that, the lack of timely and accurate data is one of the root causes why we have problems with things like prior authorization, right? You need a lot of information about an individual at the right place at the right time, that you don't always have on hand in order to really prosecute someone's, insurance claim, if you will, right? And like in the case of a prior authorization. So it's really, really imperative, for the benefit, in this case, of healthcare, right? To be able to try to bring that information together. How do you create an ecosystem that can bring enough patient insight together to help expedite, right, someone's, access to a treatment? Or because otherwise, according to the physicians, you end up having negative health outcomes, right? We want to avoid that. And it seems like it's so close. We see the data, we work in data a lot, right? So we know where a lot of information is, but how to bring it together. And I know we're gonna touch on that, but it's so valuable to do it because out in the world, right, when you're front line, you're working with a physician or you're working with a patient, being able to have that sort of assembly of information at your fingertips is crucial. And we'll get into that, but yeah, the benefit there is going to be, generally speaking, smoother experiences, right? Less friction along the way, so that patients don't give up on the process and don't give up on the therapy that they've been prescribed in the case of specialty.
Yep, thank you. Next slide, please. So let's talk specialty. As Josh mentioned, he and I live in the world of data. And it's what we use to provide that better customer experience, to provide better business impacts to our customers and our clients. And if we think about specialty pharmacy data, it's data that manufacturers or life sciences community, they buy this data. It's a commercial data asset that's readily available. They buy it, so they're able to really leverage that to identify opportunities to intervene at the right time with the right message to the right stakeholders, so they're able to get patients initiated on therapy faster. But there's gaps. There's data reporting gaps. There's latency gaps, and all of this data tends to be fragmented and siloed. So within the world of specialty pharma, when a patient gets on therapy and the specialty pharmacy is doing the benefits verification or the PA, all that information oftentimes isn't reported on the data that goes back to the manufacturer, which then eschews their ability to really intervene at the patient at the right time. So to Josh and I, this was a huge opportunity. What could we do to facilitate that data reporting? How can we get over the barrier of data latency? And how can we bring all of this information together to create that frictionless journey so that patients are able to get the value? And the next slide really details, well, he and I had thought about this for a while, and we were thinking, well, there must be an opportunity between the data that we see and the data that you have. If we're able to lock it together, leveraging some of this real-time data exchange, how can we provide more value together than either one of us could individually? And this is really where that connected health partner framework that we talked about earlier is, I think, the path of the future. There's so much value in what my team does within Capgemini, and there's so much value with what the Josh's team does at Precision Extract. But if we work together, could we unlock more value? And we have this really exciting opportunity and this new data exchange that we've created that I think does just that. It allows more visibility into the patient level data for specialty pharmacies in an area that has been typically blinded. So it's addressing a very, very large pain point in the industry right now, which then is going to accelerate patient value, drive business impact by ensuring that you're able to have an influence on how quickly patients are initiated on therapy and how long they stay on therapy. Next slide.
So real quick, sorry. I think, just to kind of touch on that, Giovanni, I mean, that's the key thing, right? Like, why here? Why now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we know we need to bring data together, but uniquely, we've got the capability today to be able to interlink consumer and even patient information, right? At a very precise level, so that we can say with confidence that, yeah, we've got the whole story, right? Because the whole story is what people need. That's the timely and accurate information that physicians talk about having access to be able to help with, resolve access barriers and kind of, resolve that friction. But the time is now, because the technology is there today to be able to link those profiles across disparate data resources, right? So we can actually build together, right, this sort of superset of information, kind of unlike we've been able to do before, even in a heavily regulated place like healthcare information, right?
No, absolutely. And let's just dive into it. If we talk about a specific use case, let me set the stage for what my team sees as a data integrator within the life sciences industry. Typically, when we work with manufacturers, we get their specialty pharmacy data, but there's certain fields, so from a data reporting perspective, that remain just not filled in fairly readily. And those fields are very specific to the payer data. So fields like the group number, the BIN number, the PCN number, which really tells you the patient information, they're just not there. So that's that big pain point that I was addressing earlier, that when a patient comes into a specialty pharmacy like a CVS or a Walgreens or an Accredo, the specialty pharmacy special account directors on the manufacturer side, whoever's looking at the data, they can see that a patient came in, but they have no idea what their payer information is, which then really poses a great risk. Like, what if this payer is very slow with the PAs? Or what if they're likely going to deny this therapy or not approve it? What can I do to get ahead of that? And in the current state, in the current environment, there's not a lot you can do outside of potentially mapping that patient back via the claims data set a few weeks later. But we're talking weeks, which is a huge amount of latency. It really stymies any type of actionability in real time for that patient. So when Josh and I were discussing what can we do together, that's really where our integrated framework, the data exchanges between what we're doing at Capgemini and what Josh is doing at Precision Extract, we've largely solved for this. So now when I get the specialty pharmacy data on my end and I send it over to Josh, you want to talk a little bit about the linking that you guys are able to do in real time for new patients, for pending patients, that really allows visibility, transparency, and the ability to move that patient through?
And I apologize, Shivani, but before Josh, you respond to this question, I cannot stop myself from adding a little bit here. The why now question. 2 years ago, in May 2022, Capgemini has published Collaborative Data Ecosystems report. So if you Google Capgemini Collaborative Data Ecosystems, you will immediately find this wonderful report on data exchanges. And it was tremendous, because we've got so much response from different clients saying, oh, that's the first time we see where you really explain how to organize these data exchanges. But then, we've got quite a lot of good opportunities with the clients to help them to organize these collaborative data ecosystems. But really, we see that only after generative AI, just a few months ago, we see the spike in this request for collaborative data systems, because now with generative AI, you can very fast, you can connect those data sets, you can use this technology. So what Josh just mentioned, that why now? Because the technology, almost you had all the pieces. You had data platforms, you had data sets, you have AI already, right? But with Gen AI, now you can do it much faster. And the time is really now to embark on this journey. So I just wanted to highlight that this collaborative data system, they exist for quite some time, but all the technologies are really available today. And I think it's the low-hanging fruit to apply generative AI and create data exchanges using those generative AI. Over to you, Josh, to comment.
Yeah, I mean, kind of dovetailing on that comment, right? Generative AI, it works better when it's informed by more complete information behind the scenes. One of the areas that we're working in are, conversational AI-based interfaces to help with patient access, right? To collect, information, or to display and verify information to promote a prescription or an enrollment of some kind, right? But just to make it easier and really kind of smooth out that experience. I think the opportunity, especially individually between us, between Precision and Capgemini, has to do with match rate. Okay, so guys, when you're bringing together disparate information at a consumer level and you need accuracy, match rate is the key. Okay, and that is hard to come by sometimes. But our observation, especially in patient data and healthcare, uniquely between Capgemini and Precision, we've got upwards of a 90% overlap with our database of patient insights and the brand aggregation that Capgemini that you're doing, right? And that's essential, because if you don't have a good match rate, then the coverage, right, the ability to pull in the missing information and create that assembly that we're looking for, it misses the mark a little bit. So you want that to be as high as possible, and together we have that, which is why we're working together, right? So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because we have such a high match rate now, what we're seeing on the Capgemini side is every time a new patient comes in for an SP, working with Josh's team, we're able to bridge that missing group BIN and PCN number, which essentially is the payer profile, the patient insurance lens. So now when the data that we send back in real time to the stakeholders across that journey, now you have the ability to at least mitigate any payer access related challenges, which honestly, I think they're one of the top 2 or 3 reasons that patients don't initiate on therapy. It's due to a payer related hurdle. Now, if we're able to provide that data that is actionable so that you're able to get that patient, if you know they're likely not going to get on therapy, you can move them to a bridge program, a quick start, or another mode where they can initiate on therapy while you navigate through payer hurdles. So you're not going to lose that patient. So you're really able to enrich that patient experience, that consumer experience, leveraging not just the data that lives at Capgemini, but that more robust view of what's happening, which then leads the patient to have an experience very similar to what Sergey had, that the data, because it's live, it's infused with AI, it's real, it's really allowing the stakeholders, whether that's my team, Josh's team, the healthcare providers, the patient themselves, patient services organizations, a true panoramic view of the patient, not just the data that we're seeing, but the other data that could influence their behavior. So it really provides the patient with such a great experience, because we know their name, we know their insurance, we know their previous health conditions. And Josh, you're going to talk a little bit about the metadata library that Precision Extract has that enables that 360-degree view. Next slide. And that to me is paramount. That's why we're all here, because we want to make sure that consumers, that patients get that real experience of understanding what's happening. Now, this is just the way that we're doing it. This is a mechanical sort of architecture slide, but this the red circle that you see here, that's that data exchange that's driven by AI that allows us in real time to enrich the data to facilitate better experiences. Next slide. And this is really where I'm going to hand it over to Josh to talk about all the other data that lives in his world, that when we match it to what lives within Capgemini, now we're connecting it in a way that gives you that 360 experience. Josh?
Yep. So what we're doing, what we're linking together. So there's 2 little boxes on that slide we just saw, right? What is it on the Precision side that we're linking to Capgemini with, right? You guys are, you've got the brand, you're bringing together all that insight. What we have is what we call our meta patient platform. Okay. really what we're trying to do with this platform is to cover sort of end to end all avenues through which we can help foster that exchange of patient insight. So we are a predefined collection of healthcare, information that's pulled together at a patient level, and we create multiple applications and ways to touch in that, right? From an analytics perspective, we've got the ability to work with Capgemini to be able to link data at a patient level and resolve things like missing insurance or where there are holes in the data, right? What can we pull through? And I'll get to the library in a minute, but how about do the exact same thing through an API, right? So we've got e-services that can plug in an operational way in a live healthcare setting, actually, right? So that healthcare workers or folks working in patient services, individuals that are actually frontline with consumers and patients, that they have the information at their fingertips as and when they need that to really impact that experience immediately. But even before all that, what can you do with information like this that can help even like the top of the funnel, right? The beginning of the journey. We can identify audiences, consumer audiences based on healthcare characteristics. And this has application really anywhere. It doesn't have to be just, with life sciences, but, in maybe any industry, having line of sight to certain healthcare characteristics, right, might impact the audience that you want to be able to target and reach, right, for your direct-to-consumer campaign, something to that effect. And so we enable the ability to create healthcare audiences based on very, very precise criteria. If we go to the next slide real quick, we get into a bit of the how. So all of this is built on linking, right? So, interchange or the exchange of information, how are we tying things together at a consumer level, right? Or in this case, at a patient level. It all really links, it all works through tokenization, which is kind of the central icon here on this slide. But we've got the way to securely take identifiable data elements, right? So in the patient world, or generally like personal identifiable information, PII, right? Be able to take that information, use it, and convert it in a way to create like a key, something that can't be worked back to an identity, so it's secure, right? We can do that, and working with someone, data from the outside, and pulling it in, create a match without us knowing who the individual was. We do this actually securely, right? So they could be a consumer identity or a patient identity coming in, but we can tokenize it, make a match, and over on the right, we've got a data library, our MetaPatient library, right? Where we've got a lot of different healthcare related information that we can expose to anyone, right, who has a need. So very often folks are interested in tapping into our resources in order to get line of sight to an individual's insurance, because believe it or not, insurance is often missing inpatient data, right? Depending on, especially when we're looking at specialty data and data purchases direct from pharmacy and that type of thing, there are those gaps, right? So because we've got such a wide view with the data that we've invested in to a patient's background, yeah, we know their insurance, we know their medical benefit, we know their pharmacy benefit. So if you need to run a claim for a pharmacy benefit and you don't have the insurance, or if you'd like to verify, we've got that, and we can serve that use case, or we can fill gaps in a specialty aggregation program, right? But beyond insurance, which is really, that's very common in terms of need, other sort of blind spots that we have, especially in specialty, are like treatment histories, right? Or comorbidities, because it's hard to get that full line of sight into someone's medical history, right? And to do it compliantly. But there are ways that you can expose key features of an individual's health history that can have dramatic impact in terms of how you work with that individual, the services that you would offer that individual to improve or promote their experience. So if you only knew, for example, we've got financial information that is related to healthcare spend, right? So, if a patient has, where they're at with their deductible, right? Or, have they had a lot of medical spend recently because of hospital visits, things like that. Those are key financial risk indicators, actually, that might kind of tailor what you would, or how you would engage with that individual, right? And that's our thesis, is by exposing this information and being a centralized resource to do so for over 300 million individuals, we can help promote that capability, and especially together with Capgemini, do so in the specialty pharma space.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely, Josh. And also it's beyond the specialty pharmacy space too. I think the framework that you and I have talked about so much today about data connectivity, data latency, leveraging API, leveraging AI to make better decisions so that you're able to get more value, amplify that value to the consumer as well as to the business. That's true across any industry. As long as we have the data and the connectivity to do it, we can create a automotive journey, just like the one that Sergey mentioned earlier, where you're able to leverage the data so that you're able to provide the best experience, real-time advice, so that your patient walks away having a much higher degree of brand loyalty driven by a much more curated and micro-targeted patient experience, consumer experience, I should say. So this is, I think, an exciting framework that is mature in life sciences because of the fact that you and I live there, we breathe there, that's what we do. But also within Capgemini, it's our growth trajectory. We are taking this construct that we know so well, we're taking the industry out of it and making it so that we're leveraging the framework that we have for integration to bring that 360-degree view of the consumer and really drive additional experiences in automotive and retail and the other sectors that we support. So it's a really exciting model that we've created for life sciences that we're looking forward to extrapolating and bringing to the other industries as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most exciting opportunities actually of partnering, right? It really linking our platforms together. I'm really passionate actually about trying to find other ways that Health Insight is going to promote a better consumer experience in other industries. And I think uniquely, right, with with the folks on this webinar right now and your customer base, there's that opportunity because we've got the right innovators to think through, wow, okay, there actually is a way to go get that information, right?
No, absolutely.
I can build better audiences. And if, just imagine like if I only knew that someone, maybe if they have a health condition that, would sort of affect maybe how Sergey's experience was, right? With, roadside type things. I mean, the possibilities are endless, but you really hope to kind of spur the conversation and carry this forward.
Absolutely. And it's what's really exciting is that it's not just the framework that we've created with life sciences. We have a ready to deploy solution that is well vested in, across different industries, that if we take what we've done with the data exchanges in life sciences, we can bring that across the other industries very, very quickly and readily, leveraging our platform approach. So
Giovanni, actually a question came in related to that as it relates to implementation and time to value considerations. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that the connected customer journey platform, it's a very mature solution that since all of these tokenization pipelines and pathways and connectivity and data exchanges are already in place within life sciences, we can go in and we can implement very, very quickly because the software is already there. It's a ready to deploy software solution. So with the full integration pipeline across the healthcare ecosystem. So from an implementation perspective, the fact that we have the platform, it's there, it's something that's a mature product that's been there in the industry for a while and working with folks like Precision Extract and other data partners. That connected health framework is already there. So we typically go in and we have very, very quick implementations due to the fact that the data exchanges and connectivity is already there. The infrastructure already exists.
And with that connectivity, mind you, right? So the impact of exposing or resolving missing information in healthcare, I think from a value perspective is immediate. As soon as you start feeding that missing information in, people can begin to act on it right away.
Absolutely.
And that the patient experience, right? The customer experience, day one, that information starts to arrive, you've got access to it, you're immediately able to support their case even better, right? So the value, the time to value, I think, this is something that, we've prepared and we're ready to do, but it's also extremely actionable and the ROI starts to kick in right away.
It does. And we see it across all the different industries that we support. We do this in automotive. We do this in retail. We're doing this in banking. We're doing this in insurance. So we're starting to really see that it's the patient journey in life sciences, but it's the financial wellness journey. When I think about banking, it's the automotive customer journey in automotives, very, very similar to what Sergey had. So the framework that we've presented today, while has been largely within life sciences, the platform can adopt that framework and move it across the industry, so we amplify that value to really be a consumer 360. Was there another question?
There was another question that came in. We all have been hearing so much about Gen AI recently, and Josh, you touched on this a little bit. What are some of the use cases that come into play within the customer journey management as it relates to Gen AI?
I think what we're seeing at Precision is, like right out of the gate, opportunities to serve a need to improve the patient onboarding experience, okay? And that could be as simple as a prescription going to a pharmacy, right? And what the pharmacy does with it on intake, or an enrollment into a patient services program. I think one of the chronic issues with certain programs is, lack of information, because there's not a lot of fidelity when it comes to how that information is entered or logged up front. And it's often a sort of secondary process that happens after a prescription is written, right? And by the time somebody comes around to try to resolve the missing data issue, it's almost like the opportunity, it's not that it's passed, but we want to strike while the iron's hot, right? We want to be able to create capabilities that promote better collection and enrollment, let's say, right, for specialty brand programs, as close to the time of prescribing as is possible. And so through Gen AI, we've got an ability to create an interactive type of an enrollment, sort of capability that not only leverages information that we've already got, right, that might not even be at the physician's fingertips, but we can leverage those data resources in a conversation with the patient or with the healthcare worker to automate and complete that data collection exercise, so that right away, right, we've got a solid enrollment. It's very actionable. It's not missing information, and we can move on, and it can be done in minutes. You can almost envision an entirely different patient experience where by the time you've left the facility, right, the doctor has written you the prescription, you may already be enrolled, and they already might be pursuing your benefits verification, because your insurance, we already know what that is, right? And that promoting that is, I think, key. So that's one use case I think that we're definitely seeing right now.
Yeah, and from the Capgemini side, we're seeing that in other industries as well. So specifically within financial services. Very similar to the patient journey that Josh just alluded to, when you have somebody enrolling for a credit card, for example, having their financial information, having their credit scores, having the more 360 view of who they are can help you better identify how to target. And once you've identified that this customer is best aligned to this type of financial product, then you're able to really navigate them through that product so they're able to adopt on that. We see that a lot with call centers. So oftentimes when individuals call and they might be a high net worth individual, you might want to route them leveraging AI technology to a call center where they're able to get a live agent in less than 60 seconds versus routing them to an area where they might, be in a wait time for 5+ minutes and you might lose them. So we're readily engaging in AI to identify opportunities so that we're able to create that frictionless experience that Josh mentioned earlier, but across industries like automotive, banking, financial services as well. So it's an area that we are investing a lot in, because ultimately we're adopting data to ensure that we're able to promote the highest degree of customer experience.
There is one more use case maybe that I would like to mention regarding Gen AI. Shivani and Josh, you have spoken about kind of a customer-facing Gen AI experiences, but also there is a very important technological aspect of that, how to apply Gen AI on the back end to do the data integration. Because when you do the data exchange, you need to know that this customer, whose name is Sergey in one data set, is the exact same customer in another data set, so that do this linking with the tokens that Josh has spoken about. So previously, we would have to do this kind of a manual process to do this, we call it tag mapping, right? Tags in one data set, another data set, make sure that we are linking this properly. But now you can use generative AI to automate this tag mapping across hundreds of those data sets and accelerate this data exchange and streamline it and avoiding silos of those data. You can do it in just hours and days rather than months, sometimes in a manual process. And that exactly, again, why you can really create those data ecosystems today much faster with GenAI.
No, absolutely. I would echo that the customer identity resolution that you mentioned earlier, when facilitated through AI, it absolutely hits that data latency so that you're able to connect all of this data that Josh and I have been talking about in real time, faster, better, and more accurately, which underpins our entire outreach mechanism too. So excellent point, Sergey.
Yeah. Yeah, I think too, I mean, when I think about healthcare, right, the ability for Gen AI, when given, enough input, it could do a fantastic job at defining your sort of like at-risk patient population.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So anticipating disease, right, or anticipating a condition of some kind, I think is crucial, especially when it comes to rare disease, because, again, not everyone has a complete picture, unfortunately, today of someone's health history, nor does everyone have enough repetition in that data with all these complete stories to say with some amount of confidence that, yeah, this pattern, right, exists in the data. You need Gen AI to be able to sniff that out. But when you do, wow, imagine what you could do, right, with finding, the hard to reach patient, or, I think the healthcare applications alone are really, really impressive. But in any industry, the ability to like pull this together and create really nice predictions where I don't think our models today can do it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, it looks like we're at time. I'd like to thank the speakers today. Really appreciate it. And this was recorded, so we'll be sending out the recording shortly after this. And also, there's a QR code that will be displayed. It has a new point of view that we wrote about CCJP, and I encourage you to have a read of that. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Josh, Shivani, Christian.
Thanks, guys.